Hey YouTube, just a little quick thing here. So just to get you guys back up to speed, so on the last part of this series of diesel swapping, this 2012 Tiguan, we swapped the transmission and engine, and we installed the bevel box. So now we're going to be working on the exhaust system. So it's pretty straightforward, but you're going to need a MIG welder or a TIG welder for sure, and just a lot of patience and a good cutting tool, whether it's a hacksaw or a sawzall, because we're going to have to do a lot of cutting and splicing. All right, stay tuned. YouTube, just a little quick update. So we got the Tiguan TDI. It's a little dark in here under the trans tunnel. So grab the inspection light. But anyways, so yeah, today we're going to be talking about exhausts. So largely when you actually, when you have your standard Tiguan, you got this guy right here hooked up to the turbocharger, flipped around that way. So it goes to your turbo, goes down the trans tunnel on the flex pipe, and it carries on back down on the left side of the exhaust system. So largely what we got to do for the diesel is the diesels actually have a remarkably simple high flow exhaust system. So it actually goes on the left side of the trans tunnel when you do the swap instead of the right. So what you could do is you could either buy like a $700 or $800 stainless catback exhaust, or you could do what I'm doing. So largely I just lopped off the flex pipe from the old Tiguan. So this is your upper catalytic converter, and then you have your lower. So the lowers are very close to being the same. So I'm going to just utilize the one that came with the Tiguan. So we got right here, just a simple splice on your downpipe, and then your flex pipe's just welded in right there. So this goes to your upper catalytic converter and your turbocharger and your diesel. Then we got your O2 sensor, and then last but not least, we're going to be splicing in the anti-shutter valve. So that guy has to go in here at a later point in the video, but we'll get to that eventually. But for the most part, all you really do need is just this assembly right here, and I'll show you how it mounts up. All right, so we got our exhaust system just up here and mounted. So that's the factory clamp. So you got a V-band clamp coming down, then it's straight, and then you'd have your little hanger right here, which we will be attaching momentarily. And then, yeah. So here's the small little issue with these that I did mention. So for your exhaust, on the normal gas Tiguans, that exhaust pipe goes on the left-hand side of the trans tunnel. But for the diesels, it goes on the right. So largely what we're doing is we're using that anti-shutter valve assembly, that one, that has to go on to recenter our exhaust, so it's not rubbing on the shielding here. But you can see largely just by moving just the stock Tiguan straight run of pipe, it is already pre-bent for that tunnel. So it makes the most sense in my head to just be reusing this exhaust for this purpose. And then if I find the opportunity to build a nicer stainless exhaust from scratch, I will. But honestly, for cutting and splicing factory exhaust parts, this isn't too shabby. All right, so largely what we're going to do is we're going to take our measurement from that pipe, and we're going to choose a straight run. I'm thinking right here, because it's already curving that way, to recenter our exhaust. But stay tuned. Alrighty, so as promised, here's the complete Franken exhaust. So it's been Frankenstein together by the Passat exhaust and the Tiguan. So you got your flex pipe, you got your front hanger. I'm going to lop that off pretty soon, so it'll kind of look factory, almost. And then you got your anti-shutter valve, which also helps to actually center the exhaust. So let's get this mounted in and I'll show you more. Alrighty, so the shutter valve is loosely tacked in place just for measurements and checking fitment. Alright, so we got our exhaust mounted, front hanger, so that's all good. RO2 sensor has ample clearance, and our anti-shutter valve does too. So it looks like we're good to go. So last but not least, we got this last little piece of tailpipe that originally came off from right here on the Tiguan exhaust. So we're going to reutilize that. So this guy happens to already have a bend to recenter it there. So we've just exaggerated that by putting the anti-shutter valve in. So what we're going to do, we're going to line this up, and we are going to essentially, because this has exhaust clamps that wrap around here and here, we're literally just going to cut this where the bend is and then size it up for fitment, and then tack her in place, and then we'll still have the slip joint in the middle just for easy assembly and disassembly. But yeah, looks good to me. All right, stay tuned. Okay, so we've got everything all buttoned in. So got our V-band clamp tight and up there. Got our first welded portion right here at the flex joint. Sorry if my welds aren't like the best in the world, but not really going for records here. So we got our front hanger. That looks good. And again, our clearances are a little wonky, but you know, nothing that's not easily adjusted. So we're not really rubbing overly on anything, and we're not really close to the shield in any spots other than on the downpipe. You can see nice and uniform all the way down. Got our weld that we just did for that crossover pipe. Brings us back to the exhaust muffler. Tighten our little joiner. We still have use of our anti-shutter valve if we need it. And yeah. Okay, so next part of this build will probably be the wiring and installation of the Audi A3 axles. So if you do in fact do this swap, you need the gasoline stub axles because the diesel ones will not fit, and they're for an Audi S3, not an A3. Pardon my terminology. The ones for the Golf R also work, as long as they use that same generic 4-bolt bolt-up hub. You should be able to get away with using factory ones from a Golf R, an All-Track, or an Audi S3. Alright, cool. Well, thank you for watching, and get ready for the next update.